You're listening to the Cat Breeder Sensei Says podcast. This is your show host, April Catito, and in this episode, we're going to be talking to the breeder support manager from Trupanion to tell us about health insurance for our pets. All right, so without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest for our show, which is Lacey O'Connell from Trupanion. Hi, Lacey.
Hi there.
Thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to the listeners about Trupanion and the great benefit that it will have for them. I was telling Lacey that I had not even heard of Trupanion for about a year after I started breeding, and was really missing out on something that is very valuable for not only breeders but the people who are taking our kittens home with them forever. So I definitely am glad to have you on the show today to so you can just explain what Trupanion's about and how they can use it in their breeding program as well. So
Yeah.
thank you again. So just start out, Lacey, by just kind of explaining what Trupanion is, maybe the company and maybe their general mission.
Yeah. No, so Trupanion, we are pet insurance for dogs and cats, and you're not alone in not knowing a lot about Trupanion or pet insurance in general. It is still a fairly new market. I mean, especially compared to other types of insurance. Pet insurance is one of the newer types, and that's kind of our goal is to help inform people more about what pet insurance is and what your options are.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, who would have thought that we can actually insure our pets against, things that come up because
Oh
things
yeah.
do come up all the time. So, what does the insurance plan cover? I mean, is it like a health insurance plan per se, like for a human, but for your pet? And what does it cover?
Yeah, a great question. It's very similar to what you'd see for like people health insurance. So the coverage is specific to injuries and illnesses. So any unexpected medical costs that could come up. So that would be things like medication, even allergy medications. Sometimes skin reactions will happen in certain climates. So we cover things along the lines of medication, more serious things like hospital stays, surgery were needed, x-rays, things along those lines. So it would be for any of the unexpected medical costs that can sometimes come up with pet ownership.
That's great. And those unexpected things are usually the ones that are can get very expensive.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
like the usual, maintenance things and your routine exams and stuff. Those are, usually not super expensive and people can handle that. But when something unexpected comes up and it's, maybe major illness, then I think the insurance is just a great idea that you have a, security to know that you have help covering the expenses. So,
Oh yeah.
um, how much of the expenses are covered with the plan and, kind of explain
Mhm.
how the insurance works.
Yeah. So the coverage, we're here for any of the injuries or illnesses, and you're absolutely right. Those are generally the things that can be kind of scary with how much they cost. I currently have a dog, and he has made good use of his insurance. Fortunately, he's in great shape now, but there's kind of those surprises. He does have a low-grade heart murmur, but that's something insurance can help with.
Hmm.
Getting it checked out. Unfortunately, we had him insured early enough on. A couple of the things just to note, the main things that we do not cover. So we don't cover any portion of the wellness or kind of the routine care. And then we can't cover any pre-existing conditions. So kind of a downside of pet insurance is we can't cover pre-existing conditions. So good part is if you get them enrolled when they're young and healthy, it's kind of the time that you don't really think about insurance options, but it is the best time to look into it.
Right.
But
I don't mean to cut you off there, but on the
Mhm.
pre-existing conditions, um, let's say, I don't know, let's just use cancer for an example.
Yeah.
If the animal has not been diagnosed yet, but then they get covered. I'm just kind of going through a scenario here, and then
Mhm.
we get the coverage, and I guess there's a waiting period. Is that right?
Correct. If you go through a standard enrollment, there's a 5-day waiting period before injuries are eligible, 30 days before illnesses are
Okay.
eligible.
Okay. So that's kind of answers my question. And but the cancer's not diagnosed until after the policy, been through your waiting period. Is it then
Oh,
covered?
probably not. It would depend on the specific scenario. Kind of the main point there, or the reason I say probably not, is you mentioned it hasn't been diagnosed yet.
Right.
But if it was present, especially with certain conditions, veterinarians can kind of give you an idea in a lot of those scenarios and say, we think that this has been present for about 6 months. It's
Right.
spread
Right.
so far. They provide a lot of that information, and along the lines too, there's certain situations where uh, you feel what might be a mole. You don't think too much of it, but it's been there, for potentially years before you go and get it tested, and the vet says, oh well, this is cancer, but we also know that this was noted a couple of years ago. So pre-existing conditions, kind of the key word there is existing. If it
Right.
was existing prior to enrollment and prior to the end of the waiting periods. And that's furthermore why I encourage people to, look into insurance or get insurance when your pet is young and healthy,
Yes.
prior to anything like that showing up. They don't even have a mole that's developed yet. And there's a
Right.
lot of, innocent moles that could happen too, but just along the lines of the earlier that they get covered, the better. And sometimes you're enrolling them not knowing exactly what's there, but it's not a problem. We just want to make sure that they're insured prior to anything being present, even if it hasn't been confirmed yet. We don't know exactly what is going on with them. The fact that the condition was existing prior to enrollment is what would label it as a pre-existing condition.
Right. Totally makes sense why it would be just the best for everyone to cover them early when they're puppies or kittens.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, how does the claim work? I mean, is that how do the customers file a claim and they pay for their expenses up front and then get reimbursed?
Mhm. So there's a couple different ways that it could work with claims. We do claims very quickly. And it's very nice, especially when you are looking into an emergency type situation. One of the best things about Trupanion is we're the only company with technology to pay veterinarians directly. Most of the time, that'll happen within minutes too. So it's over 80% of our what we call our vet direct pay claims. Um, are done within 5 minutes. So that could be you going in for an emergency. In those situations, the vet would actually reach out to Trupanion, file the claim for the owner, and then we pay the vet our portion of the bill, and then the owner pays, the percentage or whatever is left over, their responsibility of it. But Trupanion steps in prior to them even leaving. Say you have a preferred vet, they're a smaller clinic, they don't even know who Trupanion is, and they're like, nope, I don't want to do that. Please let them know it's always an option for them. But let's just say, worst case scenario, they don't file the claim for the owner. If the owner has to file the claim, it's still the same exact coverage, and it's pretty easy to do it. I've done it from my phone before. Just take a picture of your itemized receipt and fill out our claim form. Send it into Trupanion. We process the claim as quickly as possible, and we can even do reimbursement as a direct deposit. So we can get the money back to the owner if they're in the situation where they had to pay the bill. So two options there. Definitely wonderful. I know my vet clinic does the vet direct pay. It's come in handy, in those emergency type situations. So definitely the preferred method, but no worries if that's not an option. We still same type of coverage if the owner has to pay versus if we pay the clinic.
That's awesome. That's convenient too for everybody. Just
Oh
convenience,
yeah.
and that's what we're all looking for, right? These days
Yes,
is
yeah.
convenience. On the benefit amounts, like the amount of claims, does that vary depending on where you're located or the claim amount? What is the benefit amounts that are available through Trupanion?
Yeah, there's a couple different versions, I guess, of Trupanion coverage. So Florida has a specific way of coverage. What I encourage everyone to do, though, is they can always call in and we can go over the specifics with them. But the general rule for everyone, our coverage is not capped, and it's always going to be for injuries and illnesses. So we try to keep our plan simple. It's one simple plan. We cover injuries and illnesses, no cap on it. The only reason I say the coverage can be a little bit different, it's going to be based on how the owner wants to have it set up and what's available in their area. For example, you may want a high deductible on your plan, so you're paying a lower monthly rate. So you'd be responsible for a little bit more of the vet bill in order to meet your deductible. So deductibles are met prior to coverage kicking in. So there's some options that are left up to the owners as far as how they want to set up their plan to get a monthly rate that works for them. Rates will also vary a little bit based on where they live, where they're located. So couple different options, but definitely the same general idea of there's no cap on the coverage and any injuries or illnesses.
I like the flexibility option. Like you can kind of,
Oh yeah.
base your monthly premium around your deductible. That's interesting too. I like that. Um, so for specifically for breeders, so we've kind of been covering, a general overview of the
Mhm.
policy for owners of pets. And since the show is kind of driven more towards breeders, let's talk about and the policy that you have specifically for breeders, your add-on rider. um,
Yeah.
yeah, tell us about that.
Yes, yeah, no, it's a great option that you can add to your policy. So it is optional, but you can add it on at an extra cost for any of your breeding pets, particularly the females. But this would extend coverage for any breeding related emergencies. One thing to keep in mind with that is it wouldn't cover just the general breeding cost or things that, you're just getting checked out. It would be specific to breeding related emergencies. Big one if a C-section is needed. That's one of the main things that this rider would extend coverage to. So breeding related emergencies, that breeding rider can help a lot with that. One other thing to keep in mind too, if you are insuring one of your breeding females and you want to add this to their coverage, you do want to make sure that it's added early on. So there's a 30-day waiting period before the breeding rider coverage would apply to the policy. But you also want to get that waiting period out of the way before she has been bred. So you'd want to add this 30 days before she is bred. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
totally. Is the add-on rider, how is it different from like the main policy? Does the main policy not cover like a C-section emergency? Is that excluded?
Correct, correct. C-sections would not be covered under just what we call our core coverage is the basic coverage. So it
Right.
would extend to breeding related emergencies.
Okay, okay, totally makes sense. And Lacey, you also have a breeder support program that I actually participate in. I
Yes.
have a little package that I give to all of my new kitten owners when they go home, and they're covered for 30 days at no charge to them. That's really awesome. So they can, enroll as soon as they take the kitten home. Can you talk about your breeder support program a little bit and how that benefits the breeders?
Yes, yeah, and this is the part I get excited about because that's my job.
Yeah.
Is one of the account managers for the breeder support program. So I'll try not to bore you too much with the details
No,
of
no,
it
no.
because
You can't bore us about this. This is exciting to me too. So
and I could probably talk about it all day. So I'll try to at least avoid that. But no, you've already had some experience with our breeder program. So the ultimate goal of our breeder program and part of why I get excited about it is it really helps with a lot of, kind of the pet insurance issues. What it is meant for is to try to help inform new pet owners. So someone's getting a kitten from you, they're excited to get this kitten. They're like, yes, I have a healthy kitten from a reputable breeder. Life is great. They're probably not thinking about what could potentially happen to their kitten. And honestly, I hate even pointing out to someone that don't let your kitten eat that button off the floor.
Right, right, right.
Careful because they will sometimes try to squeak out the door to go outside. So, it's with our breeder support program, the main point of it is to try to inform your buyers about insurance as an option to help them avoid that big issue of pre-existing conditions. We want them to look into it. They have a young, healthy kitten. And even though we don't want to go over what could potentially happen to your cat maybe 12 years down the road, we do want them to know early on rather than finding about insurance when it's too late. So we're trying to get them information. There's kind of two main benefits that I usually highlight with our program. One is what we call our starter kits. It's a pack of brochures that we send out whenever you have a litter, just some extra material to add to your kitten packs. And then the other benefit is what you mentioned there, the Go Home Day offer. There's a couple different versions of the Go Home Day offer, dependent on where the buyer lives. So there's a different offer in the state of New York and a different offer in the state of Florida, that works a little bit differently. But the ultimate benefit of this, it waives their waiting periods. So their coverage will start effective immediately. It does have to be activated within 24 hours of them getting their kitten, but it'll waive their waiting periods. They have coverage effective immediately. It gives them a chance to kind of look into those insurance options. Like I said, they're not thinking about the stuff that could happen later on. But, with this offer where it's like, hey, you should take advantage of this, kind of gives them a nudge that, oh, what does pet insurance do?
Right,
What
right.
could happen to my kitten? And, one of the, I think, common misconceptions with some of our owners, they're getting this kitten, reputable breeder, everything's great. They're healthy, nothing could ever go wrong. You don't want to think about what could happen. But they pick something up off the floor. They just ate a coffee bean, which is not good for them. Those are things even with the healthiest lines, there's still some of those accidents that they can get in trouble too. I've also had pets that have have tried to climb things they should not be climbing. Curtains, I can't remember the last time I had curtains in my home. There are things they shouldn't be messing with that sometimes they do still get into trouble. So again, we just want them to know about insurance as an option. There's always the coverage for things like diabetes or cancer down the line, but there's also just those surprise, we got into trouble. My cat did something they're not supposed to. So it helps them to look into it, encourage owners to consider getting insurance for their pet. So sorry, I went went on about that for a little bit. The Go Home Day offer is just kind of the exciting part of our program. So any breeders that are interested in partnering with us or joining the breeder support program, they would get their own offer with a code specific to their cattery that they could share with any of their owners. A couple of the other just general benefits of being in our program, you'll have a dedicated account manager. So in a sense, you have your personal expert in-house. So if you're like, what does Trupanion cover? Or I don't remember what she was saying about vaccinations, you can always call your account manager directly and say, what did you say about this? Or how does coverage work? Or maybe your buyer has a question about, what did I just sign up for? You'll have an expert in-house. You have someone personally to assist you. You'll have an account manager to manage those types of questions that just the average owner doesn't have an account manager, just our breeders would. And then we partner with a lot of breeders across the US and Canada. So it's one of the benefits that I love. We have a private Facebook group for the breeders that we partner with. So it's just a supportive community of other breeders. It gives you a place to talk. You might even see people you already know in there or co-breeders. You'll run into just kind of a great network of other people that, are really out there advocating for the same things, trying to show that there's responsible breeding out there. We have reputable partners. It's, just a good place for our breeders to communicate with one another, get to know one another, and even learn about it. Occasionally comes up where it's like, there are some pretty rare breeds out there that you don't always hear about. You might see one of those breeders in our Facebook group. So a great way for you to connect with them and maybe learn a little more.
Awesome. That
Yeah.
reminds me of I had a Persian kitten from 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And well, he had just come home and my son had left his fishing pole leaned against the wall with the fish hook still
Oh,
on it. And the kitten was batting at the fishing hook,
yep.
and it got stuck in his paw.
Oh,
And then what did he do? He ran off with the fishing hook in his paw. And, so here's
oh
the fishing hook
goodness.
buried deep in his arm. And that would have been a good time to have Trupanion insurance because, that was an emergency vet visit to get the fish hook out and, mend his arm back up. And so that's exactly the things like that you're talking about. That
Yes.
unexpected, like, don't play with the fishing hook.
You don't even realize it's there
Yeah.
until they go and find it.
Yeah, you're like, oh gosh, what's wrong with him? Oh my gosh, he's got a fish hook in his arm.
Oh,
That hurts thinking about. Well, Lacey, awesome. Can you tell the listeners who are listening to our show how to get in contact with you? Is that like, we want them to be able to contact you if they want more information
yeah.
about that. And I'll also put all of your contact info on the website, and I'll give that information out in a minute, but just let us know how to get in contact with you, if you will.
Yes, yeah, no, and absolutely. I would encourage everyone to reach out if you have questions. If you're looking into the breeder program or you're interested in joining us, you can call our team, and that number is 855 266 2154. We have a handful of account managers. I'm close with all of them. We'll get someone to assist you, and we can go over, some of the details of the partnership and kind of how it works. Also, though, if you're interested in getting insurance for your pets, that contact center that I've talked up hopefully a couple of times already, they're available 24/7, 365. You can call them at 855 210 8749. And there's a few different numbers you can reach them at, but they are absolutely great. I refer everyone to call them, especially emergencies, stuff that happen in the middle of the night. I know that I've called them, even though I work at Trupanion, I've called into my contact center to be like, help, what do I do? And they're spectacular. Most of Trupanion employees, are pet owners now. A lot of us work with their pets next to them. My dog sits behind me all day long. He is always with me. And then, of course, when we're back in the office, we have a pet-friendly office of dogs and cats, and it's spectacular.
It sounds like it. It sounds like a great place.
But I encourage anyone to call in, whether it's just to our contact center, if you are interested in more information about our breeder program. We'd love to hear from anyone, so please feel free to call.
Awesome. And I'll also put the information on the website, catbreedersensei.com. And it'll be in podcast episode 11 in the show notes. You can just go there, and I'll have Lacey's contact information and also a referral link to sign up for the breeder support program. So awesome. I'm excited that I get to share this information with the breeders who listen to this. It's really beneficial. I mean, I love the color brochures. I love putting my packets together for my kittens that are going home, and making them it's very informative. The starter
Yeah.
kits that you send out, I love them. So thank you for doing that very much. And thank
Of
you
course.
for being on the show today and your time. I know it's valuable. Is there anything else you want to add, or do you think we covered it all?
That covers just about any of it. But like I said, I encourage you guys to call in. And if anything, if we have any of our current partners listening, I just want to send a thank you to you as well as to any of our current partners. Thank you guys, really having our breeders. I encourage everyone to give us feedback, on the brochures. You guys have helped us to develop the brochures and have the best information in there. It's constantly changing. We're trying to make everything better. How else can we reach more owners? How else can we assist breeders? So we encourage any feedback. So thank you anyone that has already helped us so far, and then hopefully we'll get some more assistance from some others out there that might be interested in joining as well.
Awesome, Lacey. All right. Well, thank you again. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon. I've got some litters coming up.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much.